Man, shout out to Dante's Boxing Nation.
DBN Nation, of course. Support DBN Nation. You're hearing it from Floyd Money Mayweather.
It's Terrence Crawford, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
This is Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo! Hey.
If you know, you know. Now, we all know boxing is a very corrupted sport and run by politics. Boxing is the only sport where there is no fair judgment. They overpraise one fighter and discredit another fighter just because one fighter is on the hope list and another fighter is on the coincidental list. So there is no fair judgment from analysts to experts to old media, and that's why new media is here. We're here to restore order and maintaining it because there's a lot of confusion going on, and definitely Teddy Atlas became one of the confusion. Now, shout out to the subscriber that sent me this. He informed me on Teddy Atlas podcast where he stated that he had Shawn Porter versus Errol Spence as a draw, and he could see Porter winning the fight. And he was very upset with the judges, how they scored the fight in favor to Errol Spence by 5 points. Now, I don't have no problem with anybody's opinion. However, what I do have is a problem with someone that contradicts himself and doesn't keep the same energy with all fighters. And that's why Dante always say the most dangerous weapon in the world is a microphone and a camera. And since Teddy Atlas has a podcast, he could get caught slipping a lot of times. Matter of fact, he already did. And this is just another day in the office. Now, Teddy Atlas, he likes certain fighters, but discredit another certain group, not because he don't particularly like them. However, it's just because the fighters he likes come from a certain group. And that has to stop, especially for an analyst, an expert that Teddy Atlas claims he is. That can't be tolerated. And now I understand why ESPN laid off Teddy Atlas, because he claimed that if he was on TV, he would have went off on the judges that scored the fight in favor of Errol Spence by that margin. Keep in mind, the judge that had it for Shawn Porter, he had Shawn Porter up by 4 points. There is no way you could convince me that Shawn Porter won 9 rounds in that fight. It's impossible. I gave Shawn Porter 4 rounds max. If you give him a 5th round, you is pushing it. People are blowing it out of proportion. I rewatched the fight, and I understand when people are overhyped after the fight. However, if you rewatch the fight with your adrenaline down to where it should be, you will clearly see Errol Spence winning 8 rounds with the knockdown. So, yeah, the judges had it right. Just because one judge had it in favor of Shawn Porter doesn't mean Shawn Porter won the fight or it was a draw. That's like saying Floyd Mayweather versus Canelo was a draw because one judge had it that way. So it doesn't add up. And when Teddy Atlas was talking about the Lomachenko versus Campbell fight, you would think he would critique Lomachenko because he praised him so high. What is this standards we holding fighters to? Is it a Floyd Mayweather? But Teddy Atlas would tell you it's a Lomachenko, right? Now keep in mind, Luke Campbell is not half of the fighter that Porter is. He is not a 2-time world champion. Matter of fact, he lost his first world title fight against Linares and got dropped in that fight, and he was ranked number 5 in the division. So he fought Lomachenko for a vacant belt. Unheard of for a champion to get a shot at a vacant belt when he's a 2-time world champion at that division. Currently holds 2 belts, and he still got a shot at a vacant belt. Just like he lost to Salido and got another title shot his 3rd fight against Gary Russell. But we're not going to get into that. Obviously, Lomachenko is on the hope list, so he's going to get a favor or 2. But what I'm trying to say is, how come Teddy Atlas didn't come out and critique Lomachenko the same way he critiquing Errol Spence when Luke Campbell is not even half of the fighter that Porter is. Let's not forget, Luke Campbell won 4 rounds in that fight, or at least 3, and gave Lomachenko the toughest fight of his career, according to Lomachenko himself. So since Luke Campbell hurt Lomachenko multiple times in that fight, and Lomachenko had to dig down deep and pull it off in the later rounds, in the championship rounds, and show that he had the it factor by knocking down Luke Campbell and then almost knocking him out in the 12th round, just like Errol Spence did with Shawn Porter. Even though they were both up, they still dig down deep and were trying to push for the knockout. So how come Teddy Atlas overpraised Lomachenko and didn't critique him at all? However, he discredits Errol Spence. He overpraised Lomachenko, the guy he thinks is pound for pound number 1. But the guy like Errol Spence, who is ranked number 5, I believe, or number 4 at least on my list, he discredits him for having a classic fight and beating Shawn Porter at his own game. Is Lomachenko capable of that? Because when he fought a Mexican-style type of fighter like Salido, he didn't even want to give the same guy a rematch. But he wanted to give the guy who beat him in the amateur a couple rematches. But the guy who beat him in the pros, Salido, he didn't want to give that guy a rematch. So what is we talking about here? How come Teddy Atlas overpraised Lomachenko and doesn't critique him at all? But on the same breath, he critiques Errol Spence and state that, oh, well, Errol, I thought it was a draw. And keep in mind, people only say that and praise Shawn Porter is because they want to discredit Errol Spence. They only praise Shawn Porter not because they Shawn Porter fans. All these people in the comment section, it's just because they want to discredit Errol Spence. It's like the lesser of 2 evil. That's how they looking at it. And Teddy Atlas is looking to do the same thing. Because keep in mind, he likes to put Lomachenko pound for pound number 1, even though that's Terrence Crawford. So Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, and Lomachenko is in a rivalry situation right now. That being said, he wants to credit Lomachenko as much as he can and discredit Errol Spence any chance he gets. And best believe it, if Terrence ever slips and doesn't look dominant, Teddy Atlas is coming for him. And Teddy Atlas lost all credibility, or most of it, when he told both Terrence Crawford and Andre Ward to their face after Andre Ward knocked out Kovalev and after Terrence became undisputed at 140, something that Lomachenko is trying to do till this day. Terrence already did it years ago, right? And Teddy Atlas had the gut to say and the audacity to tell both Andre Ward and Terrence Crawford after Floyd Mayweather retired that they not competing with themselves to be pound for pound number 1. They competing with Lomachenko when Andre Ward was clearly pound for pound number 1. And Lomachenko at the time had 8 fights or 9 fights and was like 4 fights or 5 fights removed from a loss to Salido, and he didn't want to give that same guy the rematch. So that's just me pointing out the politics that's going on in the sport of boxing and how certain fighters are overpraised and another group of fighters is discredited, even if they having a classic fight. And that's what they claiming they want to see is a Barrero Morales type of fight, Ali Frazier type of fight, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Duran type of fight. And that's what Shawn Porter and Errol Spence brought to the table. The only difference is, unlike Sugar Ray Leonard, Errol Spence pulled off the victory in a dogfight. And he didn't let the moment get to him. And like I said, that's to Errol credit. Obviously, Shawn Porter ain't no Duran, but he the closest thing to him at the welterweight division today. That being said, instead of praising Errol Spence for seeing a classic fight, and he could have possibly made it easier if he chose to box, but he stuck to his word and made it a dogfight and still pulled it off. So, like I stated time and time again, Teddy lost all credibility when he told Andre Ward and Terrence Crawford that Lomachenko is pound for pound number 1 because he's Lomachenko. And that's exactly what Timothy Bradley told Andre Ward a couple years later, while Lomachenko is pound for pound number 1 over Terrence Crawford before the Luke Campbell fight. And I made a whole video on that. He stated it's because it's Lomachenko. Like, what standards are we holding fighters to? Is it Floyd Mayweather? Because you got some fans, they want to hold every fighter to a standard that nobody could live up to, right? And then they want to praise Canelo Alvarez while discrediting Floyd Money Mayweather. It doesn't add up because Floyd beat Canelo at his worst while Canelo was more toward his best. Floyd beat him at 37 at his 5th weight division. Meanwhile, Canelo, that was his weight bully division, like people like to state, and he still lost to Floyd every single round. So how is you praising Canelo, the guy who's cherry picking, and discrediting Floyd that fought the best throughout his career? Canelo Alvarez never had a pretty boy stage where he called out everybody and everybody was ducking him and he was walking through fighters. Canelo Alvarez doesn't even have a Money May stage where he fight fighters coming off their biggest win and knocking them out or beating them like Floyd did after becoming Money May. And don't quote me on that knocking them out part. Outboxing them for 12 rounds, I meant. So, like I said, is this one person in particular made a video cooning to the max on a whole nother level. I'm not even gonna mention his name, but he was doing it for clout, you could see. But it's some sucker shit because it's so disappointing to see, because you got this guy discrediting his own people, calling Errol Spence a weight bully. And I kid you not, on the same breath, he crediting Canelo Alvarez, forgetting that Canelo was a weight bully at 155 for the longest, for years. He made his own weight, Canelo weight, at 155. He didn't want to make the weight at 154, nor move up in weight to 160. So how is you praising Canelo Alvarez for fighting Kovalev, a washed version of Kovalev, and ducking Charlo and Andre in the meantime, but discrediting Errol Spence in the process, a guy that's catching up with Canelo Alvarez, even though he started his pro career way later than Canelo Alvarez did? And that's the most disgusting, dishonoring, and coonery on a whole nother level that I never seen before. I never respect anybody that discredit his own people to praise another group for clout. Because you know how easily you could counter everything a dumb person like that say? Errol Spence fought Kell Brook his first world title fight and beat Kell Brook in his own hometown in front of 30,000 people. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez fought for a vacant belt at 154 against the 147-pounder Ricky Hatton. Brother, are you freaking kidding me? It's no comparison. Errol Spence dominated Kell Brook and everyone after that to Shawn Porter fight, and that's a classic fight that he won. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez, first real fight with Trout, people forget that wasn't a classic fight. And last time I recall, it was a knockdown that separated Canelo Alvarez from Trout. It was the knockdown that gave Canelo Alvarez the win, and one judge had it every round for Canelo Alvarez. Can you believe that? It was an open scoring and Trout had to fight out of his character because he was down on the scorecard. He went from a boxer to an aggressive fighter, and obviously he didn't have power. So that being said, Canelo in the later rounds was throwing like 2 punches around and managed to win the fight by a landslide. Keep in mind, that was his first step-up fight, and he got the Floyd Mayweather fight after that and got schooled. So that being said, how is you overpraising Canelo and discrediting Errol Spence? And I say all that just to point out the coonery that's going around in the sport of boxing and how corrupted the sport of boxing is. How mentally weak a lot of YouTubers are. How a lot of experts and analysts are so biased to a certain group just because they on the hope list. Like a Lomachenko and a Tyson Fury, and discrediting Deontay Wilder, a guy who been knocking out everybody. He knocks his opponents out so bad, he put them on the meme. Ain't that what people claim they want to see, is knockout? Deontay Wilder brings that to the table. Action-packed fights, Errol Spence bring that to the table. Dominance fights, Terrence Crawford bring that to the table. But these guys don't get the credit they deserve because they're on the coincidental list. If you wonder why, just because of how a person look and what kind of skill color he possesses. Now, like I said, just give credit where credit is due. You don't gotta overpraise a certain fighter just because you like him, and you don't gotta discredit another fighter just because you dislike him. Give credit where credit is earned. These fighters put their life on the line, and for a fighter to do so and then you take credit away from him just because it's your opinion, I don't respect that. Opinions are like asshole. Everybody got one, and some opinions are bigger than most. So you add that up. What matters is facts and accomplishments and how dominant you are, etc., etc. So quit overpraising certain fighters just because a particular group of fans will subscribe to you and will show you love, and discredit a certain fighter just because you know people hate that certain fighter. So you're trying to get clout or fame. Because when all the dust settles, you have to be credible, you have to be reliable, you have to be honorable, and give credit where credit is due. Because fighters put their blood and sweat and tears into this to becoming a world champion and go down in history. So you got to give credit where credit is due, and people has to be more serious about these topics, pound for pound lists and all that, instead of picking fighters that they like, etc., etc. Now, there's more I want to say, but obviously it's too much for one video. So check out my new show, Split Decision. It's a boxing debate show where I expose all the politics of boxing and more. You know, predictions when it comes to imaginary fights or fights that are about to happen, like Golovkin versus Deveryachenko. That being said, check out Dante Boxing Nation show as well. He will be hosting it soon. And that's why when we host these shows, nobody be calling in. It's because they don't want no smoke. They know what time it is. All these casual fans in the comment section, they don't want to get exposed. That's why you never see them call in, but they're always in the comment section talking shit. And when they talk shit, they don't bring up points or counter the facts that you bring up on the video. Like this video I brought up, they're not about to counter what I'm about to say. They just about to talk all type of trash and call me all type of names. But guess what? I'm cut for this. I'm cut from a different cloth. I don't let that get to me. I don't let these casual fans control what I say and I start saying the things they like. I'm cut from a different cloth than y'all. So y'all could go ahead and clout chase, and some YouTubers even discredit their own people to praise a certain group to get clout. Man, this is the most dishonoring thing you could ever do. Keep that in mind. So yeah, I said it. Go ahead and subscribe below if you're trying to get smarter by the minute. If you're trying to get dumber by the second, don't listen to these casual fans. Follow my new show, Split Decision. All these links will be in the description box below. Follow Lunatoon Boxing. Follow me at Aki TV. All these links will be in the description box below. Click on the notification bell to get notified every time we go live, and to be continued on the next episode of Aki TV. Peace, and we out. And one last thing, Teddy Atlas did come out and state and praise Terrence Crawford, but that's because he don't have no choice. He ain't lying about the thing he praising Terrence Crawford for, but since it ain't no secret and you know he's that good, how come you don't put him #1 pound for pound where he deserves to be, and instead of Lomachenko, right? But you rather put Lomachenko than Terrence Crawford, even though you know how good Terrence is? That's even worse. When you know how good a person is and you informed on the subject and still choose to be dishonorable. It's one thing for you not to know and just hear what people say and go based on that. But if you already know what time it is and still to go against the grain, that's a whole different type of hate. And that's what I mean. They overpraise certain fighters on the hope list and discredit another fighter on the coincidental list. That's the worst thing you could do. And like Dante said, the worst weapon in the world is a microphone and a camera. And Teddy Atlas has one on him at all time. So I guess he's under shooting rockets right now because, like I said, I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to leave it at that. So subscribe below, and we out.